Hello, I am Aaron Justin Bryan from Table Knights Entertainment, and welcome to Talk 20 to Me. Tonight's subject is min-maxing. However, before we get into that, I would like to relocate your attention to the description down below. There is a link to Child's Play. Donate. We love them. And we'd also like to give a special shout-out to Stephen Knoll, who is not exactly a Table Knight, but he is under the Table Knights banner for the moment, and helping us out with a show called Steven Recommends. Thanks, Steven. That being said, let's move on.
In other news, Fallout 4 in 7 days!
Oh my god, we're not being sponsored by Fallout.
I want to play it.
That's great. So, today we're talking about min-maxing. Min-maxing, if you don't know what that is when a character, or excuse me, a person forgoes logic in their stats, coherent to a backstory or just logic in general, to maximize specific traits that they want. For instance, the clearest and simplest example is having a fighter, whom you forgo all intellectual and social stats to get all your physical stats, such as strength, dexterity, and constitution. Of course, your character will be very powerful for forgoing those other stats, but your character will be less realistic. There are people who are nothing but, walking tanks and, dancers who are just stupid, but, you can go deeper. You can make a more fluid character than that through avoiding min-maxing. And it's actually a trait that I haven't seen in a long time, but I know people see it every once in a while, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, Alex. Alec, my bad.
It's all right. I do see your point, and I do agree with you. It does lead to very shallow character types if you do that, even if they do, like a fighter who dumps all of his points into strength and has no social or intellectual skills. But that in itself can lead to an interesting character because they have those weaknesses. But you can go deeper than that. On the other end of that, though, I've had a lot of characters where I, in the stat process, kind of design them to be super well-rounded. So they're kind of strong and they're kind of intelligent and they have so-so charisma. And as a result, they kind of feel like sometimes you can come up with a super bland character and they don't have any strong traits that are dictated by their stats, because a lot of characters' personalities are dictated by their stats. So sometimes you can end up with a lawful, neutral kind of fall into that trap as well.
You kind of bugged out there for a second.
Oh yeah? Did you not hear anything I said?
The last thing I heard was lawful neutral, and then you bugged out.
Oh, you could also fall into the trap of making a lawful neutral average Joe if you try to average out all your stats, because they could end up really boring too.
Too right you, sir. Douglas.
Hi. Alright, so min-maxing, from what I understand, since I don't know much about it other than how it pertains to what some players do. The reason why I believe min-maxing is kind of a like an offsetting thing is because it doesn't allow you to. It doesn't how do you say? It allows your character to be too good at one certain thing, which, I mean, in itself is not too bad, but at the same time, think of it as like, if you were that character, are you just good at archery and then you just suck ass in everything else? Right, it wouldn't make sense. You have to at least have some kind of thing that you're good with, like multiple things. You're not just, I mean, sure, you're great at one thing, but you also have to be good at other things too. And if you just like put every point into strength, and you end up being just like this unsociable, somewhat stupid person who, finds it hard to get out of bed every morning just because he has no idea how to. Just rolls around. It's like, duh, I found a bag.
Diddly.
Right, in that kind of sense. But at the same time, it offers quite an interesting approach to the character. Because, given that sense that you can make your character so good at something that they can be a part of their story. For, let's say, a character, you invest all your points into intelligence. And your character is just the smartest person there is, but he's a weakling. In that sense, I could make up a good story for a character development of this smart cookie who is socially awkward and can't really do much out in the open wild, but give him enough time and he'll be able to figure out the most basic of strategy plans, or pick a locked door, open a computer, things like that. Although I don't know why there would be computers in the fantasy world, but hey,
There are cyber fantasy worlds, futuristic. Gio, your thoughts on the process?
Well, I think these two are kind of missing the point about the issue with min-maxers. The point and issue about min-maxers, even though we're playing a fantasy game, it's unrealistic because, like it's been mentioned before, minimum stat is 0. Once you hit 0 within anything, you are so incapable of doing it, it's literally impossible for you. If you hit 0 within intelligence in itself, you actually cease to exist.
Well, technically,
technically you're a plant.
Let me finish though. Yeah, you lose all basic ability to think, so you turn into a vegetable essentially. And 10 is an average human being. There's nothing wrong with being at a 10. That means you're average. But the problem with 20 is that 20 and above are godlike stats. So starting off any game with a 20 literally automatically puts you into a point of a legend, which that's great and all, but when you go out of your way to make all your characters that, then the game doesn't. The game loses its charm, because it's not realistic that everyone on your team is specifically good at a singular good thing, because it's like, okay, I'm really good at shooting. Cool, I'm really good at hitting. Oh, cool, I'm really good at blocking. And with your powers combined, we make one cohesive battle unit. But in every other form of existence, you would be, like, complete and utter shit. And and the thing is that a lot of people don't realize, or they fail to see this because they're so busy trying to be as powerful as they possibly can, that sometimes it could be fun to have a weakness. Sometimes you can even profit from giving yourself a weakness. I mean, look at a lot of superheroes. There's so many superheroes out there that they're extremely powerful because of their weaknesses rather than their strength. And you could use that and highlight that to your own advantage. If you're just the big, bulky, beautiful marauder 24/7, then your characters kind of become monotonous and, well, boring.
When you say powerful because of their weakness, do you mean in a metaphysical way?
No, I mean in all ways. If I was a cripple and a thief, I'd be going around begging people, oh, please, give me your food, oh my god, and then trip on them and grab their wallet.
Oh. Well, there you go, yeah. Which is something that I was going to talk about as well. I feel like weaknesses enrich a character, because failure is usually better than constant success. Because if you never fail, you can never rise, and that's when the truly heroic moments happen. If you're always at the top of your game, you've never had a fall, you've never experienced what it's like to be weak, then you can't know what it's like to get up from that. And that's an important part of I believe that's part of the hero's journey in like classic writing style, isn't that, Doug?
Yes, for the most part. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but more than not, for most a character involving the hero's journey, it's about the hero or the character itself discovering something within them that makes them achieve the status of a hero. Whether it's on a quest of vengeance, on a quest for glory, on a quest for adventure, on a quest for something. Along that way, they will encounter something that they cannot pass. And that is the thesis of what a conflict is in that hero's journey. It is something that the hero cannot do either alone, does not have the strength, does not have the will, does not have the necessary requirements to pass said point. And that way he goes on this journey within the journey in order to improve his or herself, so when he comes back, he or she is able to conquer it, or realize that all this time it meant for nothing, which in itself it's its own kind of reward.
Well, that sounds more like a tragedy, but
I mean, look at Darth Vader.
yeah, he brought balance to the Force.
After he killed his wife.
After he done goofed. He done goofed for so hard.
He done for like what, 20 years?
I mean, he only slaughtered like 50 million children.
He done goofed so hard.
Alec, do you have any further experiences with min-maxing? Have you ever min-maxed yourself?
No. I normally don't have a desire to, because I play a lot of tabletops just for the role-playing experience, so most of the time I just kind of go with, yeah, I tend to make my stats more about who the character is rather than anything, even if that means taking like really low stat rolls and just dealing with them anyway, because I think that's fun.
That is fun. Gio, have you ever min-maxed?
On two specific occasions. I min-maxed when we were doing the Dungeon of Horror or the
Doom of Horrors.
Dungeon of Horrors. Because the whole point of, like, you literally told us there's no role playing in this dungeon. The whole point is
the whole point was to get through it.
The whole point of it was to get through it. I'm like, okay, if the whole point is to get through, then I'm going to min-max. Of course I'm going to min-max, because why put assets in role playing if it's not going to benefit me or be part of the game, period? And the second time I min-maxed, which I didn't min-max entirely, I just dabbled a little into the min-max because that was the point of the character, was when I created Narthulian. The whole point of this character was to be a wall. His last name is Tower because he was supposed to tower everyone. He wasn't supposed.
6'8", right?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember at the moment. It's been like a year since I played with him. But the whole point of him is that he was obsessed with protecting, and he was a cleric, but he devoted himself to helping people he considered lesser or in need of help. So I min-maxed slightly on his character because I needed a character that could basically do that. He wasn't supposed to be charismatic. He wasn't supposed to be kind-hearted. He was supposed to be there like, my faith requires me to save people, so I will save people to my utmost ability.
Which I really like, because very few people ever get to see the dick side of clerics or paladins, and that's kind of more of a dick way of running a cleric or a paladin. I've run like 2 cold-hearted paladins that are like, you look at them and they seem like such assholes, but they're doing the right thing. It's just like they're going about it with the wrong kind of heart, and it seems so weird to people.
Yeah.
Personally, I have min-maxed. I usually don't min-max for games that I play in. I usually min-max on my own free time because I like to explore the boundaries of systems. For instance, this year at BrigadeCon, I designed a character based off of Starkiller called Starkiller. I had to make him do a whole bunch of different things that someone gave me a video. So I literally had to do specific qualifications for this character's abilities. And let me tell you, it was a bitch. I could not do it for less than like 460 experience. and their cap that they wanted me to do it at was 150. And I felt like crying when I was doing it because I was just like, this system can't be broken. No. Oh, I lost so much sleep with that. But yeah, I mean, I like to min-max just to test a system. I usually don't do it for characters. I think the one time that I min-maxed, though, and it was probably before I understood what role-playing was really all about, was with the first two characters I've ever created, Jareth and Clara. I basically made Clara Wimpy Wimperton, and Jareth Super Strongyton. In the same way that Geo was representing those three different people combining together to make one cohesive unit, they were a pair, a magic user and a fighter. The magic user being super intelligent and charismatic and being able to win people over, and the fighter being a wall and heavy hitter and super light on his feet. So I've done it, and those are actually two of my favorite characters, but that's because I grew up with them. And over time, they developed into, you know, really good characters with good backstories. If I could do it again, I would restat them, because I just didn't know what I was doing. I was a kid. This is the first character I ever rolled up, and I was fucking 10. So, you know.
Yeah. But, I mean, what it is that it's obvious. People fear weaknesses, and, of course, they favor obsession. So they really want that character that's like, oh, man, I want him to be, like, super smart, like, make everyone feel like a dumbass. Then, of course, if they're willing to dabble mid-maxing, then they will go about doing it. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, aside from it not being realistic, it could sometimes be more interesting and make you more of a unique character to have a weakness. Like, for example, I was having a conversation with Aaron because we were having troubles with a couple players who were min-maxing their characters.
Oh, God.
And unfortunately, it had to lead to us rolling in person because we couldn't trust these people anymore. But essentially what it was is that I was telling him that we need, like, these people don't realize that there's a certain cool feature about min-maxing. Like, I was giving him an example, and he was like, you know, that thing wouldn't be as strong as you think it would be. I'm like, I'm not intending it to be as strong at all, because the whole point is to create an existing character, and if that character is not strong in real life, then so be it. It's how I want to make that character. He doesn't have to be a legend in order to be good. For example, what I was giving him as an example was, I was going to have a Vivarin, which is in the Gregorian system.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what a Vivarin is, they're a ferret person, but they're around a size a bit taller than gnomes. But they're short. They're small beings. And I was telling him that could I have a Vivarin that trained in two-handed greatsword combat, but uses a longsword as a greatsword, because proportionately, a longsword is the equivalent of a greatsword to a Vivarin. And he's like, well, of course, but you know he's not going to be doing the damage of a greatsword. And it's like, of course not, but that's not the point. The point is to have a badass ferret walking around, like, flipping through the air with this big-ass longsword, like the length of his body. The gnome version of Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy, but that's
Oh, God.
But yeah, you know, after I thought about it, it seemed really cool to me because, you know, it isn't as powerful as someone using a real greatsword, but it looks cool because it's a tiny little dude who's, like, not even supposed to be using this thing, and you're just like, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah, in that sense, I actually, I recall one moment I did min-max, and it was to create this character, Guster, who I modeled after, for those of you who know the comic Berserk.
I knew you were going to go there. I
Yes.
was like, immediately, Guts.
Yeah, it's Guster, who I named after Guts. And what I did was I pretty much min-maxed them to have the highest strength and will, and like just to leave everything else, you know, kind of dwindled, because I wanted him to wield, you know, this great sword, or, you know, the biggest sword he can find with one hand. it's gotten to the point where I've kind of cheated the system, and he currently deals a great sword in one hand and a bastard sword with the other. Because technically, with a 20 strength, he is able to do that. Now, does he do it with finesse? No. That much is certain. But he is able to do so, and given the fact that I've made Guster train in that for a while, he is now able to do everything in that form, which is great. He's too much for his own good. But at the same time, given his godly prowess, the way I did to balance him out, though, was to make him a dick and to make him not need any kind of armor. He basically goes in with just like a steel shirt and some pants, and that's it. That's how he wants to go. Because in his backstory, he truly wants to die. And to do this, he just goes in and tries to see how many he can kill before he's dropped. Sadly, he ends up killing everyone before that. I give him low enough armor class so he could try to be more killable. Sadly, he isn't.
Your damage is your armor. I've played I've played a weak fighter before. Completely average in her strength, but she was very intelligent and she knew many different techniques and could use many different weapons. And that was where her strength lied, because she could be versatile and suit the situation that she needed to fit. She couldn't dish out, the killing blows like, Guster can, but she could adapt herself. And she had studied, for years and years, and that was it. She just studied swordplay. She hadn't practiced a whole lot. So her muscles had never really developed. Alec, what is a character that you gave a glaring weakness to that was more interesting by it?
It's hard to think of a specific example for me right now. I had this merchant character who he was a bard, and he was an ex-wrestler actually. So, but as I was rolling the stats, I had this 7. It was a Pathfinder campaign, I think, and I had a 7 that I had to stick somewhere, and I ended up putting it in strength, and I was like, how can I justify having this merchant who's an ex-wrestler have a 7 in strength? That's absolutely ridiculous. But the way I justified it was that he was getting up there in years. So he was kind of an older dude.
Nice.
So yeah, I just retained his. He was like a super charismatic, not very bright, but he was a super charismatic merchant who was.
El luchador.
Yeah.
I would have imagined he sprained a lot of his muscles too, doing wrestling kind of stuff.
Yeah, probably.
Ran him down. So we are near the end of the day, or episode, I mean. Closing statements. Gio, you start with the closing.
Closing statement is, we play these games to have fun, and if you want your character to be a complete train and just plow through everything, then do it, because that's your character. But, like I always say, and what I've said in the past videos, dabble in everything. It is sometimes weaker to have fun. If you want to be the unique...
More fun to be weak, you mean?
Yeah. If you want to be the unique character in the crowd, sometimes you're more unique being, the cripple with a sword than the big, bulking fighter that everyone's seen a dime a dozen times. Try to experiment with everything. Don't just always go in guns blazing, muscles bulging, and, the brain the size of a walnut. That is my statement.
Douglas, closing statements.
To be or not to be? Are you want to be a badass bitch or a weak-ass motherfucker? Well, in reality, it's depending on how you want to play your character and what kind of story you want that character to be based upon. Because in all of the lectures that I've taken over mythology, and character development, the hero's arc, and things like that, it doesn't matter how strong your character is, doesn't matter how weak they are. All that matters is how does that character fit into this world, and how can they make a mark per se. And if that should be the basis of like how you create a character, is how you want to leave a mark. You want to leave it as the most badass, hash-slinging slasher, or do you want him to be known as some kind of master thief that nobody's ever seen? Nobody knows, but this guy obviously knows his shit because he sneaks in and out without people seeing. Or does he want to be known as that weird beggar that, for some strange reason, also goes on adventures and stuff? For no reason, who knows? It's all up to you, and I say this time and time again. It's how you want to play. If you want to be overpowering and just go straight for the role playing, then that's you. If you want to challenge yourself and deliberately make your character weaker, so you can have a more difficult playthrough, it's up to you. It's whatever you want it the game to be, then so be it.
Alec, closing statement, sir.
From a role-playing perspective, min-maxing can lead to a pretty shallow and boring character, more of an archetype than a character. But also keep in mind that having super well-rounded stats can also lead you to be very boring and average. So keep that in mind as well. That's all.
Oh.
Oh, right.
Damn, that was efficient. Usually we have meandering.
No.
Giovanni, what is the episode for next week, sir?
I wish you told me to have that ready. Give me a second.
While we wait, let's do some other.
4.
Okay. Next week's episode is metagaming. What is it, and why is it a bad idea always?
Okay.
That's right. Are you listening? Is your character listening through 5 separate sheets of fucking walls and somehow knowing what everybody is thinking of at the same time? If that's you, then you're an unloyal motherfucking cunt. Stop fucking playing.
Did your thief sell something that he wasn't supposed to, and you somehow know even though you're in another city? Don't.
Save it for the episode! Alright.
Are you shoving your sword up your ass?
No. I'm Aaron Justin Bryant, and my closing statement is this. Giovanni's right. If you want to play a character that is min-maxed, do it. Because, again, this game is about having fun, and all you want to do is be a munchkin and kill shit and take the treasure. That's fun sometimes, too. That's a really beer and pretzels kind of thing, and, it's good for an average night of role-play. If you want to be more developmental, though, and enriching yourself with a story that you feel is worth telling, take the chance on giving yourself weaknesses, because they will enliven a character. They will make him or her more real. And always remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our new show, Steven Recommends. It is apparently really popular. And
also, if you enjoy my misadventures or the random shit I say, be on the lookout for my misadventures coming to the channel soon, maybe. I'm not sure.
Like in 2 weeks.
I'm a sad bitch.
And from all of us here at Table Knights Entertainment, don't forget to donate to Child's Play and roll on.
Bye.